What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Josh here with Shane, and we got Shadi in the building.
What's up, guys?
Episode number 12.
Episode 12.
Coming to you live. Welcome, 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 everybody. Let me check the sound, and then we'll get cracking.
Just got the Facebook notification that we're live, so that's good.
Okay. All right, we're good to go.
Looking good, Shadi.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Hey, tonight, episode 12, we've got one of my very good friends, Mr. Shadi Awad. You and I go way back, bro. Crazy story. I'm going to let you tell that story about how we met, but
you got to share it, man, because it's so much better come out of your mouth.
I don't know, but all right, I'll be brief about this. So we met when I don't even want to talk about how old I am, but we met a few years back, and we were at a Starbucks, and I was with another friend of mine, and we were having women issues, and we were talking about what do we need to do in this situation, and Mr. Shadi was right behind us eavesdropping.
Oh, man.
Dude, I remember I was on page 26 of my marketing book, man, for college. I was sitting there studying. I couldn't get past it because what they were talking about was exactly what me and my girlfriend had been going through right there in that moment.
Yeah, and it's funny, that guy that I was there with, he was having the exact same kind of woman trouble that you were having.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so I turned around and I said, hey, guys, I know this might sound weird, but, you think I could join you guys in this conversation?
Yeah, that is a true story. That's a true story.
Money right there.
What's so funny is that was not like my normal hangout. I was across town, 30, 40 miles away, never go there, hadn't been there since, and we just happened to be there at the exact same time, having the exact conversation that you were listening to, and we become just close friends. I was in your wedding, and it's just been an amazing journey. So
it has been, man.
It was divine, man, that encounter there for you and me. So
yeah, it was great.
So thank you for being a part of this, our little podcast tonight, man. And what I do want to set up is I have watched Shadi go from working for the man, right? I remember you working at AT&T because you helped me get a phone way back when. And then to starting your own business with another friend of yours, and just watching you guys and the evolution that you've been on. You guys have just been on this crazy journey, and it's just all about growth, right? It's about growth. It's about personal development. And I've watched you grow up as a leader. I've watched you grow up as a father, as a business owner. And, man, it has been a pleasure. And now I'm learning from you. So I just love being a part of the journey. And what I can tell everybody out there, this guy is so well-versed at so many things inside business. If you want to break business down into 10 categories, he's a stud at 10 out of 10. So we're going to have you back, and we can have many, many different in-depth conversations on specific topics. But, man, I just wanted to showcase our people about what it's like to get going from scratch. You didn't buy a business. You started from scratch, and just the evolution, the journey. So tell us a little bit about what you've done, man.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought up AT&T. It was a great company to work for. But, I had come out of finishing my master's in business and thinking dude, I'm ready. I'm going to conquer this world. And I, end up selling cell phones at a cell phone store. Which
you were good at it, though.
Let me tell you something.
To this day, you're the best cell phone rep I've ever known.
If I didn't shove my degree in a box for that season of my life, I wouldn't have faced the fear of rejection. I wouldn't have faced the fear of failure. I wouldn't have faced, competition. I had this one guy in my group that was him and I were always competing the number one and number two position in sales. And it was just a season where I just kind of felt like I needed to humble myself and just say, look, this is where I'm at right now. I needed a job. I needed to figure out something. But I knew inside of me I was made for so much more than that. I just needed my experience and a little bit of that knowledge gap to increase. Because, I got my master's at the age of 23. And when I was looking for jobs at the time, you had to have 9 to 15 years experience with a master's. So I have to be 9 years old working in some kind of position. It's not going to work. So, there is this truth, right? Where like, what would you rather hire? A guy who's failed 50 times at something, or the guy who's never taken a risk? You don't want the experience, right? That's what you want to buy. That's what you want to acquire in your company. The experience of somebody can help you, run the first base rather than walk to first base, right? So that season of life was really a moment where I had to kind of inch up in my experience. Then I stepped into management, had to learn how to deal with managing people, because school doesn't teach you that. They teach you how to strategize. They teach you how to come up with all these marketing plans and strategies, but they don't really teach you how to execute effectively. And Shane, we've talked about this before. So that season was wild. And then I got poached to go into a voice over IP company. I stepped into the company and I took a risk. I have people in my life, they're telling me, dude, you're crazy for leaving AT&T for this job. You got a lot of security in AT&T. You got benefits. You got all this stuff. And even people in my family. And so I took the risk and jumped in that position. Ended up being smoke and mirrors, man. Like it was a company that was saying it had all these sales and all this stuff. I look at their financials. Eventually, it was just smoke and mirrors, man. The way they structured their business is they took all the money out of the deal at the front of the deal and spent it. And I was like, that's great. Like what kind of accountability do you have for your customer at that point? If you take all your money up front, and the way they structured that is through a lease program. So they'd structure a lease, they take all the money up front. And, that's not bad for people who have the integrity and the willingness to, spread that revenue over X amount of years that lease is up and kind of manage your business under that, that 1 year's worth of revenue and keeping the rest in the bank or something like that, or using it to expand. So I got there 6 months in. There was a situation where I sat down with one of the owners of that company, and he asked me, like, what do you think if I attack that person's server, for taking some of our clients? And I said, bro, like, you are not going to do that. If you, like, under my breath, I said, God, if this guy does this, I know I should be leaving already, but I just want to make it clear, if this guy does this, I got to go, because I just always have the belief, if your customer leaves you, he was asking the wrong question, essentially. He should be asking the question, why are my customers leaving me? And that season, it was such a wild ride because 6 months after leaving AT&T, I found myself without a job. I said, this guy did it. He actually he was crashing another voice over IP servers. And I'm sitting there in a room like, this guy was really doing this? So that's it. I was out. I flew up to Toronto, my hometown, and I just spent some time over there. And
you're married at this time too, right?
Yeah, married, right? Married, and I already have 2 kids. I already have 2 kids. About to have my 3rd kid.
And the wife not working. And you're a provider.
Yep. You know how I had that baby? No job. I had her on welfare. I didn't have any money. Nothing. That transition point, though, wasn't a long transition point. One of the guys from that other company who branched off because he didn't like the way this one owner was running. He started his own company. I started doing some consulting for them. And then within a year, we learned of an opportunity with Salvation Army to build them a private cloud, kind of like a bid. And we got a proof of concept project across 5 cities to build a private cloud for them. And that was back in 2012, before Azure or AWS, all that stuff. And we did that. We landed the deal, then we incorporated our business. And that's one strategy. Like if somebody says, what should I do to start a business? How should I start a business? Go knock on doors. Go see if you can close a sale. If you close a sale, then incorporate. You don't have to, I wouldn't say run your business without incorporation for a long time, but you should be able to knock on doors for a couple of months and at least see if you got any demand for your business. So we landed that deal, made like $2,000 a month for like almost 2 years. scraping by with 3 kids, a newborn, and just hustled. And I took a philosophy from my grandfather and my uncle that they ran a pretty big company in the Middle East that got up to about $100 million. And when they first started, they didn't touch profits for 15 years. So I said, okay, like I'm going to take those profits and we're going to just bank them. And we did that until the point now where we're taking a modest salary. It's nothing like incredible, but we're hedging this storm with COVID. We've had some clients have come back to us and said, hey, we're struggling, and we could accommodate that. I can't imagine where I'd be if I didn't have a little bit of a nest egg set aside in the business to be able to be able to offset some of those losses and not find myself in a place where, I'm just working, under just a massive amount of emotional stress. I've been there before.
Let me go back to right there. You said something interesting when you started your own business. In the first couple of years, you said you made $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And again, you're a guy that has a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
What was your mindset when you're making $2,000 a month? And in your mind, you should be making a heck of a lot more than that.
Gosh, I had this disconnect that was in that season. I'm not. If you think about where my value is in the company is more on the biz dev, marketing, sales side structure, right? My business partner was way more the IT guy. So it took me a while to get to the point where I felt like I was worthy of my own business. I kind of had this gap that was occurring. And in that season, it was really tough because, I'd be like, dude, what the heck am I doing here, man? I could barely talk about servers. I could barely talk about this. And I had such a knowledge gap.
Did you feel like quitting?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've had many conversations. My uncle in the Middle East was like, what are you doing, man? Like a lot of kids your age are starting businesses, they fail all the time. And I remember sitting there in that moment. I just got so frustrated that at that time, my uncle didn't believe in me, right? He did believe in me, but he was much more wanting me to come to the Middle East and help in that family business, right? So I took that, man. It became fuel to fire. It became one of those things where I just said, I'm not gonna let this sucker fail. And it ended up running me into the ground. That's another story.
Yeah.
But I've come out of it in a lot better position in my life. But it was tough. It was tough for sure. And we didn't. The advantage though about that season is we didn't have an incredibly cush job before, and we maxed out our living expenses. So we were already living under a small budget, and we racked up a lot of debt, personal debt. Actually, probably around $40,000 of debt over about like 2 years. And you could say that was like my equity into the company, So,
you've touched on so many cool things there, bro. Living beneath your means, and when you were at AT&T, all of these things for the person that is growing and developing. That's just part of the mantra of what we're always talking about. On the mastermind side, is you always got to be developing yourself, always, at all times. There is not a situation that you're in that you can't learn from. And you can't grow from. So even when you're at AT&T, you're talking about all those life lessons that you took that you're still applying now.
Yeah.
And I guarantee during those first 2 years when you're struggling, that develops so much of the core of who you are. Just about being humble. I know you're being humble now, but you've already been really successful with what you're doing. But so many of these traits, if your mindset is, I'm going to take whatever situation I'm in and I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow from it, man, you can always take any of those situations and it just makes you a better person, a better boss, a better owner, a better husband, all those things. And I just love that about what you're saying there.
Yeah, and I think for the entrepreneur for the young person who wants to be an entrepreneur, or even for somebody our age now that wants to be an entrepreneur, that was the season I lived. I had to grow in confidence. I had to kind of come to the place where, I had to kind of sift out a lot of fears that I was dealing with. Now I'm at the stage where, I really got to put into practice what I've learned, and I gotta, capitalize on that and grow off of that. So, yeah, it was a crazy season of life. It was good.
Well, tell us today, man, about different things business owners need to be aware of. How do they keep their focus? Just give us some kind of nugget that you might be able to come up with on the.
I got a question.
There you go.
So most business owners right now got slaughtered because they didn't have that nest egg. And even people who are working, how did you have the discipline? Your whole life, people tell you, right? Have 6 months, have 3 months, right? Now things are going good, right? Economy is doing well. You see some cash stacking up. How'd you have the discipline to not you said modest salary, right? I mean, that's the first thing when you have that turning point in business and you start making some money, right? You go buy stuff like $100 carpets, right? In the background and sports cars and right. Whit talked about that, 4-wheelers and stuff like that last week. So let's talk about your discipline and managing your money.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we didn't spend money foolishly at the beginning. And there's a term in business called leaky bank syndrome. It's like money's coming in, but you're like, where's this money going, man? Like, where's it going? And you got like 25 subscriptions for technologies, and you have all these tools that you're using, and you have, you're spending money eating out every single day in the company because you think, man, I can't stop. I got to keep going. I got to order something. Got to order food.
Uber Eats.
Yeah, Uber Eats is the worst. If you look at it in terms of percentages, you're paying like 100% more for your food. Yeah, so there was a fear element, right? There is in a way, it was a negative and a positive. Scarcity was a big fear factor, man, because it actually, whenever we got to 6 figures in the bank pretty quickly in our business. Within like about 2 years, we were at 6 figures in the bank. And when we got to that point, whenever it would dip close to that, like 5-figure mark, it freaked the crap out of us, and it caused us to, it caused us to cut expenses. It caused us to, want to hustle more, drive more deals. In our case, we picked a pretty good business model. We're a managed services company, so people, sign up for 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5-year contracts with us. So we get perpetual revenue coming in off of one deal closed. But it took. I'll tell you this. There's a good friend of mine, Shane knows him, but he came up with the philosophy that there is a lifestyle cap. If you make 100,000, you're gonna maybe consume 100,000 of that, probably, if you got a family of 5 kids like I do. If you make $1 million, what's your lifestyle cap? Let that lifestyle grow as your income grows, but at a certain point, what's your lifestyle cap? And same thing with the business. We got to be mindful about like spending and just being cautious about that. We were never really good, Josh, at like leveraging debt to grow the business. I don't know if that's a negative for us yet. We're kind of in that season right now where we're kind of dabbling into that a little bit. But I knew firsthand there was a massive like downturn that occurred in the Middle East. And during that time, my uncle told me, he said, like, the reason why we survived was because of the cash in the bank. We actually took over market share during that time while others were bleeding. And that's what happens. There's a whole financial curve, in investing called, blood on the streets, like there's really blood on the streets right now. And it's really sad. And it's really unfortunate. You always think you have the time until it hits you. And we've been very fortunate to have just said, you know what, man, and let me just add one more thing. The idea of comparing yourself to other people, that sucker, I'm telling you right now, that ego battle is gonna eat you alive. You have to have a goal. You have to have just a willingness to just put in the time. I mean, it'll make sense, and it'll make real sense when you have the cash in the bank and there's blood on the streets, and you're like, whoa, like we've started looking into acquisitions of other IT companies. So there's the potential for that, right? So that's just some thoughts. Hopefully I answered that for you.
Yeah, that was great. I could relate. Yeah, that when you hit that six figure, it's like in the bank. It's great, but then like as soon as it gets down to 99,999, it's like, whoa,
So
whoa, 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 stop. So yeah,
yeah, I think Robert Herjavec, which is a big time IT guy in the IT industry, one of the biggest IT companies in the US. He said that when he first got his first million in the bank, it ended up being a real big negative for him.
right.
It ended up actually making him complacent, lazy. There is something like really powerful about capitalizing on fear. Unfortunately, there's a truth to that. I'm not saying to live in that or to chase that or always keep that in your life, but it actually it's kind of like guardrails. Like you should be aware of it. Like if your money's going low, you should be concerned a little bit, like what's happening, and kind of adjust.
What made you do the MBA? Like it was your plan to get an MBA and start a business, and you just happened to go in IT, or what was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, so I got to be so the big thing. I did not have a lot of like what do they call like career planning in high school. I didn't. I just kind of got to be honest with you guys. I didn't think I'd be in business at the time. I thought I was going to be a preacher, man. Like my whole entire life, I thought since I was a kid I was going to be a preacher. I just felt that was my kind of you could call it a calling or whatever you call it, or fate or whatever. But I kind of had this moment where I felt like God told me, "Hey, I want you to get into business." And this is kind of a wacky story, guys, because I'll tell you it. But I was in Toronto. I felt like I heard God's voice in a way, and I said, "No way, I'm not getting into business." And dude, The Apprentice had just come out, and as a kid, you had all these fears about like you're fired and all this stuff. And about 2 months later, my uncle gives me a call, and he says, "Listen, I want you to go for schooling. I think you should go after your degree in business." And I was able to get, the ability. I had the fortunate chance for my uncle to fund my education to go after business. And there's a lot more to that story, but nonetheless, again, this is another story of like chasing like this mindset of like, dude, am I really made for this?
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while. So it wasn't a calculated. I wish I could say that as a young kid, I always had a desire to be a businessman, and I had this plan laid out, XYZ. I did go with the flow, and I literally, when I finished my MBA, was totally good with getting a job. And like I wasn't even thinking about entrepreneurship, although I always knew it was in me. I just wasn't thinking about it, and I just lived out my life, and eventually, for me, you come to the realization of what you like and what you don't like, and what you feel like you got to do, and what you're supposed to do, and I just felt like that was time when we started our business, and if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have started it. It's really hard. But that the whole naivete, like that, like. I don't know, Josh. You know exactly what I'm talking about, man. It's like
Everything's gonna be cool. We got this. We can do it. Yeah.
nobody tells you. That's why, when somebody complains that an executive is making too much money or like a CEO is making too much money, like you got to be in the shoes of that CEO the first 5 years of their business. I almost lost my marriage because of it, man. So like there's a lot invested and a lot of soul searching that occurs, when you're an entrepreneur. Best way to accelerate growth.
So speaking of relationships, me and Shane have the benefits of being burnt by our business partners, and so I know you got a business partner. How do you manage that relationship? How has it lasted so long? How haven't how hasn't it torn apart? Like, what do you do to keep it together and keep it kosher?
I got to tell you, two main things. So we had three partners. We lost. I mean, one of them left, and I like the guy, but I'm fortunate that happened because we're not like-minded. In case you're watching this,
Is it amicable?
I haven't talked to him in like 7 years. Like we haven't talked to each other. That guy. So it ended up being a good thing for us because it was kind of like that one partner that was very different minded.
Right.
The two areas that I think are critical for a solid partnership is same financial goals and then same customer experience goals. Like for me, that's what I've discovered. Like if my business partner, I could tell you I've had an incredible relationship with my business partner. It's like people hear this. Remember that time we went out to lunch with Mark Acosta Rubio? You're
Yep.
like, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of maybe, like, and I hope not, But one thing we said early on in our business is like, hey man, your kids are in my hands and my kids are in your hands, that brings it to a big reality that we're going to take care of each other. And then the same financial goals. We were tight with money. He was totally on board. I was totally on board. We just didn't spend frivolously. We always had the opportunity to invest into new ideas, and some of them failed miserably. Like we built software and it didn't get off the ground. We spent 6 figures to do that. We caught a rabbit trail, We both learned through that process. And the other part too is we are both like extremely committed to customer experience. It was much easier running the company when it was just him and I. It's harder when you bring on more people into your company because you're just like in anybody. Imagine like a coach. How do you duplicate yourself? That's the hardest thing to duplicate. So making sure that you have the same mindset on customer experience and money were really big for us, and having a goal as to where you're heading.
Now, were you guys friends before you met?
No, we had met at that one company, that voice over IP company.
Oh, okay.
And worked with each other for a couple of months.
So you got to see his work ethic and the way he operates. Would you say that or no?
Yeah, barely. But yeah, it's kind of wacky how we all got connected after the fact. And when that one CEO of that one company did that unethical thing,
right,
then it ended up just saying, it was a very clear line for me. Like, I don't want to be part of that.
Right.
And I want to see if I can help those guys out because it's really unfortunate what just had happened to them. And then we ended up building a good bond, a good friendship, and we started coming together. We all had our kind of specific roles. Sam and I are completely opposites.
Yeah.
He is technical. He is like strategic. I'm strategic too, but I'm way more in the clouds and systematic. And yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I can attest to your business partner. Both these guys are incredible human beings. They're good at life. They're good at being a human. And but for me, I've always, I've seen all these businesses that they have partnerships in the banking world, and the ones that were the best were the ones where they obviously were like-minded, right? Like you were talking about the mindset of finances and customer service, but just having that mindset of being like-minded. But the other thing is, man, just like a marriage, right? We all know how tough marriage is. But in a marriage, if you really want it to work, you got to commit. You got to make that commitment that you're going to make it work. You're going to stick around and you're going to do the right things, right?
Right.
And for business, for a partnership with two guys, you have to have that same mindset. You're going to go down the road of we're going to commit to each other and we're going to make this thing work because it truly is a marriage. And the ones that are the best are the ones where, just like you said, one person's strength is not the other person's strength. And then vice versa. They flip that. The other guy has a strength that the other partner doesn't have. Those to me are the best. And you guys have that. I've watched you guys. You're very conservative. What you said about the money is right on. I was their banker for a period of time and I couldn't get them to go spend money. They wanted to save that big pile of cash in there, and absolutely nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. And I think it is a maturing and where our tolerance for risk is increasing. Right. But if you don't have the tolerance to risk, it's like, don't day trade stocks. You're going to get killed. The emotions are crazy.
Hey, right? But Bitcoin is good though, right? Bitcoin
HODL, baby. Just hold on for dear life. No, but I just 2 quick things. One thing I realized about my business partner is that our moms were so much alike, man. Like we hear these stories. So we both come from immigrant parents. We both come from Christian households, and moms always put pressure on us for having our devotional time. We come from very similar backgrounds and can relate to each other. My business partner is Indian. I'm Middle Eastern. So the culture, I think, played a massive part in our connection with each other. And then the other part too is he had the opportunity to take on a Coca-Cola software development job making 250 grand a year. I had the opportunity to fly over to the Middle East and be part of my uncle's company. Let me tell you, the pull for that in the midst of running a company was so strong for both him and I. And I think that there was just this, there was just this like this desire also not to disappoint each other, man. It was weird. It's not normal. Not normal. I cherished his friendship enough that I was just like, dude, I can't do that to you, man. I can't just leave you hanging dry. And he's probably like, man, you should have, man. I could have taken that job. Making
$250 a year.
And that's that kind of person he is, just extremely talented.
So what's the future for Sam and Shadi looking like?
Oh my gosh, man. We are, we're really about scaling our company to the next level. We're a 7-figure company, but we need to grow to an 8-figure company. And that takes the ability to realize that simplicity is how you scale. Like, you're not going to scale if it's extremely complicated with a small workforce, Right. And so we're really working right now to simplify our business, simplify our services, saying no to specific clients.
Right.
Like, we cannot take on X clients smaller than X amount of employees. And we cannot, do clients that just want us when they need us. Unfortunately, our heart's desire, our whole customer experience bent wants to take care of those people.
Yep.
Doesn't want to disappoint people.
Right.
But just really getting really targeted, really targeted. Right now, we're doing a whole target market study on a specific industry, and going to get really targeted in our marketing.
So you said that you can be choosy now. It's because of the position that you guys are in that you can make that decision, right? But in earlier stages, that's not something that, like, even for me personally, like, some people will come to buy a product from me and they will want the product without the electronics, and they want to do it themselves. They're like DIY people, but then I know later on they're going to call me and ask me like what to put in there and what size, and and that kind of stuff. And so can you touch a little bit more about that? In the beginning, were you taking everybody?
Absolutely, man. And what I do cherish is like the early customers, probably the first 5-6 customers that we took on. We just we honor the heck out of those people. We just try to drive every time we could do. If one of those clients was struggling and during COVID, we did a video on our Facebook to help support them and to buy products from them, do whatever we can to take care of them, reduce their bill, extend terms to them. Mm-hmm. That's really important. But as you grow, you begin to start needing to study the profitability of each client's. And you need to understand that, it's not just me and Sam, my business partner. We got a whole group of people. And if they spend, 100 hours, like one client, we spent 156 hours a month on IT when we first brought them on. And I could quantify for you what that costs us as a company. And if that company was profitable for us for the first year, no, we took massive losses the first year. But now they're down to 55 hours per month. And they're steady on their IT, and their issues have gone down dramatically. And we could quantify how we've increased their productivity, saved them money, how we've done a better job for them than the other IT company previously. Looking at our numbers like that allows us to quantify if a customer takes up too much of our time, or a customer, and if they are taking up too much of our time, there's probably some processes internally that we got to fix. But also, if we're doing everything we can, but it's a very high demand customer, we have to look at that as a company, because the truth is, you don't have unlimited resources, and you don't have the unlimited resource to just hire as many people as you want to hire. Mm-hmm. We've been there. 2017, first loss in our company, right? We took a big loss in our company. We invested in marketing, did all this stuff, hired people, we're like, hey, we're anticipating we're going to grow, we're going to become super huge. And man, we didn't do that. We barely even grew that year. And after that, I remember my mentor telling me one time, he said, man, it's okay to run your business with extra pressure. You just got to inflate the tires more. You got to maybe get some more sleep. Maybe you got to delegate out or automate some processes so that with the same workforce you have, you're being more productive. And I love this line, automate. This first is eliminate, automate, delegate. If you have to do it, do you have to do it? Like, try to eliminate that process out of your business. And then before you put it on your workforce, try to automate it. And after you automate it, delegate it, because you don't want to be taking on that stuff. You got to free yourself up to be super focused on what you're supposed to be doing, especially getting above the business, so you can work on that. So, as we mature as a company, we're realizing that we are not a benefit to our customers if we can't innovate for them. And it's only going to become a commodity game. We cannot be in the commodity game, which is like, hey, this IT company is cheaper than you. We're going to go with them. You have to be an innovator in the industry, something we're learning, which is why being like niche specific, which is scary for a lot of companies. You kind of want to take on everything you could possibly take on, right, Josh? Like, hey, I want that sale. Give me all the sales. But if you take on all of it, then you're dealing with now the construction industry softwares that you got to manage,
right?
Healthcare. Now you got to do logistics and manufacturing. If you're not specific, if I'm like 100% a logistics IT company or construction IT company, and I'm competing against other guys who do everything, well, we work with the exact softwares you guys use. We're experts in your industry. It's not about price anymore. It's about, oh, these guys are going to help us because they know our business better. How can you differentiate yourself? It's about becoming really targeted and being okay with saying no. I mean, it's scary, but it's the next phase of maturing for our company.
Yeah, I like that. Focus on one niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on today, man. And I can attest. I mean, like I said early on, we could have you on for a variety of topics, but one I would love to have you back on is the customer experience.
Sure.
I actually took you to one of the clients that I'm at, and I had you give kind of a presentation on customer experience because it's just off the charts, and I think it'd be great for all the listeners to hear. And one thing I will say too, Shadi, this is what I believe. I believe you're probably in about the second inning of your business ownership career and what you're going to do. And the sky is the limit, man. I cannot wait to see what happens 5 years down the road. I mean, you're already a star. I don't feel like you know it, which is great. And it keeps you humble and grounded, but it's only going to get better and sweeter, dude.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. And I love you as a brother and a friend, my man.
Thank you, guys. Likewise. I appreciate the opportunity, guys, very much. Thank you for the chance.
Thanks, Shadi.
You're
Any
very
last
welcome.
words, guys, before we wrap up for tonight?
Oh, man. Stay humble. Grind. Chip.
Put in the work, right?
Put in the work.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and make sure to leave a review. We're going to be coming at you every week. Check out nlmastermind.com if you guys want to join the mastermind group. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.
See you guys.